episode 4, right? Is it
episode 4?
Episode 4 of Way Overthinking It. I am Sean.
I'm Paul.
We are here for another night of hopefully intellectually stimulating conversation.
And solving all of the world's problems.
All in one
an
night.
hour bi-weekly right now.
An hour and change.
Soon to be weekly again.
Yes. How are things in the land of freedom?
Getting freer, which I'm really loving. It's our Texas legislature's in session right now, and there are all kinds of things being passed that
right
are at least looking good to pass, which would be really good stuff. We got election integrity bill that's going on. We got open carry, which we might be able to carry handguns soon without permits.
Okay.
And there's all kinds of other stuff without even a permit.
Okay. I found it interesting. Your lieutenant governor today went on one of the media dispensaries, which is what I'm calling them now. Uh-huh. They're just handing out dispensered garbage. But went on one of the media dispensaries today, and they were willing to openly debate any of the businesses that wrote a letter of any condemnation of the voting bills. He said, he said, and I quote, he said, I will debate them in the 6-minute media slot, and I will destroy them. So he was rather confident that he would do well against any of the larger. I guess he would be talking. What do we got in Texas? Johnson & Johnson, Delta Airlines, a couple other things, right?
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of stuff, man.
So he wanted them all. He wanted a piece of all of them.
Bring them on.
He said, "Bring it." And
there's like 40,
hence no takers.
43 companies or something. They had a story about it speaking out against this stuff. And another thing we're getting is, or have a good chance to get is alcohol sales to go.
To go. Meaning like you can Uber drinks?
As in Uber Eats, I can, when I get my Chipotle burrito, I can get a beer with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. So big important things are happening in Texas. You guys have a border wall maybe that you could finish. Maybe you could finish that instead. Not that getting beer with your burrito isn't important, but I know. I'm just saying. It's kind of like up here in Washington. We just had the King County Council really, really dive into some profound, deep. I said I'm salty tonight. I almost said I almost didn't want to do the podcast tonight because I thought I'm just a little.
No, I like it.
Little
salty
too salty.
Sean is good, Sean.
I'm not finding my.
Your inner
I was actually with my friends on the boat last night and was talking about how salty I used to be years ago, and I've toned it down. But lately, it's just not. It's not been good. But yes, the King County Council doing deep, important things because homeless issues, needles rampantly everywhere, schools crumbling, all of the things that need to be addressed. $1 million bathroom in one of the parks, multi-million-dollar bathroom in one of the parks. No. They took up the issue of a fireworks ban.
No, Lord. Are you serious? That's the big deal, huh?
Diving into the deep thing. I mean, not COVID vaccination centers, not heroin needles literally be found like dandelions in the grass. No.
God.
Fireworks sales.
Well,
let's really deal with the important things.
That's why stuff's getting done there in Washington.
Yeah,
I just saw your governor announce he wants to pass either a mandate or a bill, but actually even in churches to separate you guys between vaccinated and unvaccinated.
He actually. Well, what happened is 2 weeks ago he made a threat to roll us back to phase 2. I don't know how you guys do it there, but we have phases here in Washington.
Yeah, no, there's no.
So he said he's going to roll us back into phase 2 if the numbers were not necessarily what he wanted. The problem was the data was screaming louder than he was that everything that he was proposing didn't make sense. That the science was not even backing up the decision to move backwards in phases. So everyone just kind of had that startled, slight, dog cock to their head of like, what are you doing? Are you're just making this stuff as you go along? Do you have like a wheel in your office that you're like, this is what I'm going to do today? So as the data was not making any sense, and the cognitive dissonance was settling in, we, started seeing people who were not even conservative going,
Yeah.
So
no
something's
more.
wrong here. And so 2 days ago, he went back on and he proposed a pause because someone must have plugged the computer back in, and the data got updated.
Wow.
So upon the data being updated, he was like, "Hey, good news, everybody! We're going to do a pause," which is just his way of saying, I probably shouldn't have said that. But unfortunately, what that has come with now, because there is something, a little bit of an anomaly going on here in Washington State. Only an anomaly because it's just probably not expected.
Mm-hmm.
Vaccine hesitancy is prevalent.
Really?
Here in the deep blue state of Washington.
Really?
Vaccines, yeah. And so he chided us like children and said, if you don't come get your vaccines, we're going to give them to somebody who really wants them. To which we were all like, yeah.
Take them.
No, you should do that.
Isn't that how it's supposed to work anyways?
Good leadership move right there. Go with that right there. So that necessarily was so that didn't necessarily go his way. So that threat didn't work. So then we moved it. He moved it to we're going to increase capacity in businesses and sporting events by having vaccination only sections.
Gosh.
So the Mariners game would go from 20% to 21%. I mean, I think they don't realize that Mariners games are only attended at about 20% anyway. So
that's all their fans are already there.
So the problem is the vaccine hesitancy is to the degree that I don't think it's going to necessarily make a whole lot of difference. And, little known secret, saying that you're going to increase capacity in churches, they've already been meeting. And, there's churches in this town here that have actually had the health department called on them, and the churches have basically said, bring it on.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, after the courts have held up or slapped down the bans in California, pretty much any state can run with it now because the Supreme Court did it, which means the Supreme Court will do it for all of them.
It's just interesting that he would. I mean, there's no way to put a good face on for lack of a better word, modern day segregation.
Oh yeah,
it's
disgusting.
I mean,
there's what it is.
How
yeah.
I mean, it's sad because I don't even like saying it that way because I mean to call it segregation is kind of a joke because we're still privileged white people, who are just complaining about, they're going to make me sit in a section. I'm like, really? Do you really care? I'm like, I mean, people have real problems here. So the fact that there's going to be like a non-vaccinated section and like, I think even one of the ladies from The View, she's like, these conservatives, which that's not a fair statement right now because there's actually progressives that are a part of this vaccine hesitancy.
Oh, for sure.
But
Absolutely.
she said on television with a straight face, and she's an African-American woman, which I thought this is just ironic. But she said these people should be shunned and cast away. And I went, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm good. Go ahead. Shun me.
Give us
Cast
our
me.
own space.
Give me my own, that's it. You want me to, tell me I can only eat somewhere special? They told me I've never experienced, rejection. I was like, hey, I like hanging out with rejected people. So yeah, go ahead, do it. So I just, it's reached a level of, I would give currently our governor, we bless his heart, but I would give him a 4 masks right now for his just how he's trying to articulate the message. The message is not coming through. Well, no, the message is crystal clear. I can't lead you, so I'm going to manipulate you.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I discover manipulation doesn't work, then I will be tyrannical and threaten you. And when tyrannical and threaten doesn't work, now I'm going to use incentives that aren't necessarily incentives. So I don't know what's next. I don't know what comes.
It's wild.
When's
he up for re-election?
I don't know. Not soon enough. But it's we're a deep blue state, so it's kind of like.
Do you think this
so
has
we don't have
any chance?
We don't have a
you guys
Caitlyn Jenner.
Well, yeah, that's going to be really interesting. If
we'll hit on that we'll end with that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
See, that's the thing though. But while I'm thinking, that's the beauty of conservatives though. Conservatives are not. We are not. ideologue separatists. You know, to be
No,
a progressive,
especially
you
not
literally
when it comes
have
to
to
like
think like me, look like me, and be like me.
give
And
a-
they say, well, no, we're all being unique. No, you're being unique
yeah.
like everyone else. I mean, but we're like, hey, if Caitlyn Jenner's got good ideas,
Yeah.
I'm down. I'll listen.
Oh yeah.
But
Well, one
yeah.
thing amazing that this happened under our last president, who I don't even know if I can say his name anymore, since did you see Facebook confirm that the ban is on? Like, there's.
Well, no,
But-
their committee that gives
Yeah,
them
that's
permission
right.
to act like spoiled children.
So-
yeah,
But under him, like the Republican
Under
Party
him.
became became like a blanket party. It really did. Like all these
Yeah.
people came in that like we would never have been traditional Republicans or even traditional conservatives.
Sure.
The Caitlyn Jenner example is a great example. Like now we don't care what you do in your private life.
Right.
We advocate for freedom in general. And you're right.
Right.
The progressive side has become, which both sides have always been a little bit of this, but the progressive side has gone all in, and the
Right.
other side's moderated. But that's not what the news says. But it's because it's actually the news is an exact reflection of what we're talking about, because they're progressive and they've gone all in.
right.
And
We're open-minded, narrow-minded people.
exactly, yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
We are open-minded, narrow-minded people.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're an oxymoron. No, it is true, and I know we're going to dive into this a little bit. We're kind of freewheeling it tonight. We just kind of were like, hey, we're picking up where we leave off, but
It's okay.
as usual, the I don't think I'm ready to hear another Republican talk about the injustice that the media imposes on them anymore. I think I'm done with it. I think
I agree.
If I hear if it was Obama, this would, I think we just need to let it go and just concede the fact, like literally just all sit back, take a deep breath, and concede the fact that you could have, because it wasn't enough for the CNN technical director, right, to come out and basically say if it leads, it bleeds.
Yeah.
Coronavirus numbers in the lower third of the corner is actually really good for ratings. I mean, just all of these things that honestly, on its face, are horrific. Mm-hmm. I mean, just horrific.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
I think you could have Jeff Zucker, right? Head of CNN. Is that who it is?
Yeah,
Jeff
that's
Zucker?
it. Yep, Zucker.
Literally come out, during the A block at 5:00 on a Tuesday night and literally say all of those things and confirm them. And it wouldn't make a lick of difference.
I think we're at
No
that
one
point.
would turn off CNN.
I really do. Yeah.
It
We're at
would
that point.
almost be like a media bile filled bath
Yeah.
where it was just like, yes, somebody willing to do what I do. Sorry. Anyway,
No, there's a lot of
somebody
truth
that
to
thinks
that.
like I do.
There's a lot of truth to
that
that.
was my
sad.
my maniacal laugh. Did
Yeah.
I do okay?
No, it was,
I told
it
you
was,
I'm salty tonight.
It was
I don't know.
scary good. I had somebody. So I was in California for 5 days last week, and for one thing, it was very interesting. I flew into Sacramento and I drove up to Redding and I spent my time up there, and in Northern California, man, I couldn't even tell it was locked down. They people were wearing masks and stuff,
Really?
and they're supposedly in a red area. But I talked to some of my friends up there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't care up here. Like nobody imposes
We
any
don't
of it."
care.
They're like, "Yeah, it's
Really?
like it might be a thing, but we didn't feel it as much up here because we just said whatever." And so basically what happened is all these businesses went on lockdown, but they wouldn't tell people they were actually still open. And so it was like a
Right.
speakeasy, but everybody would go in. But I stayed at a hotel, and I went into the hotel's bar to watch the NFL draft when I first came in and eat a meal, and nobody was wearing a mask. It was great. And I was like, what is going on here?
Really?
And every single person in the bar, like, we didn't talk political very much, but just like one thing came up because of a commercial or something, and it was like a domino effect. One person said a comment, and it all went down. Every single person was just like,
Because they were just
"We're
waiting.
done," and
Right.
it was all Californians. And so,
Right.
I grew up
right.
in California. At the very least, in California, even if you're in a conservative area, there's 9 people in a bar. and you're in a conservative area of California, there's at least at minimum still 2 left people in there. Like
Sure.
At minimum. Usually it's
Sure.
close to 3 or 4 and you're still in a conservative area. And it's like not one person defended anything. And they were railing on about everything. There's a black guy in there and everything, and they were just railing on about Black Lives Matter and all this nonsense, this BS and this crap that's going on. And I was just like, what is happening? Like, I don't feel like I'm in California.
Did you see the BLM protest that there was a BLM protest, and they were there were some people eating dinner, and the BLM protest kind of got up in their faces.
Okay.
And 2 of the guys stood up to the BLM protest, and one old guy, he's probably in his late 60s, pulled out a gun. Whoa. And he had a small little 22. He had one of those little, just it's a wounder, not a killer, Sure. But I mean, it's a little 22 caliber handgun, and it was all of the African American protest organizers that were yelling at all the white people, saying, "No, leave, go." Like, go. So literally it was a bunch of woke white people.
Yeah, that's what it
yelling at other white people. And there's African Americans going, no, get out of here. Like, keep going. It's a march. We're doing a march. We're not doing this. And it was embarrassing. I was insane. I felt bad for these BLM protesters who were like, they've been hijacked by stupid white people.
Oh, yeah.
Who were just like, I'm going to go do something today as I go back to my condo late. It was like, they were literally like, no, you guys, we don't do this. You do. We don't. We're trying to get a message out here. And again, like I said, the message of those who want to rally support for the African American community through Black Lives Matter as a movement.
Yeah.
I'm great. As an organization, no. And so I think we're genuine people and authentic people there who were like, no, we have a message. We have something we want to say. Totally. And it just got hijacked by a bunch of white people that are just like, and part of it is
because they have nothing to lose because they never they're not behind it all.
They get to go home at the end of the day. It's not going to be their community
to where mom and dad
impacted.
To where mom and dad pay for everything. And so that reminds me of something which I'll hit on in a second. But I was talking about
continues.
Well, in California, so the reason I brought it up in the first place, when you were talking about the media and like that domino effect that would happen if Zucker came on and admitted everything, this Belgian woman asked me, she was like, hey, do you watch alternative media or do you follow? That's what she said. Do you follow alternative media? And my immediate answer, without even thinking, I just said, is there any other kind? Because like none of the stuff ever, like none of it's real anymore.
Right. Right.
And so that was like, but that whole California thing, it's like nobody in that room trusted any of the mainstream outlets anymore.
Sure.
Which is wild. But then going back to
I think it's a good thing.
It's a very good thing. But also touch on your BLM thing you were saying. You remember Occupy Wall Street? Do you remember that? Occupy Wall Street in like 2012, 2013?
Yeah.
Tim Pool was there, and this is how he became a famous reporter.
Right.
He was broadcasting it all as like basically a civilian and just recording it all. He said that the initial wave for the first like couple weeks were all true blues, like we believe in this mission,
right?
Everything. He said after that, all those people were like, well, we got to go back to work. So they all left.
Right.
And everybody that stayed and continued to stay on were like these white liberal people who literally have mom and dad paying for everything, had rented condos down the street. And he said by the hundreds, that's who it was. And those are the people who held the movement from then on. And it was just totally fake. It was just, they all wanted to say they'd been a part of something, but they had no conviction.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened to BLM, although worse because they're taking down cities,
Right. No, I think that's one of the things that is the most challenging is I think true dialogue and true messages get diluted because there is the authentic voices are getting drowned out by the narratives.
You get the hangers on.
Yeah. Well, and it's like I'm sorry, but Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, they don't care about the story.
No,
They don't care about the voices. They care about what narrative can I pump to keep them coming back. And how much blood needs to spill. Because the pain medication guys need to get their commercial ads in. So I mean, that's the sad thing is it's which is really an interesting thought when it comes to things like social media. And again, because social media is the exact same way, they're kind of somehow handcuffed to the woke.
Yeah. Kinda.
You're
being very kind.
Right? And then but
really,
it's interesting because because if there was ever going to be a place for authentic dialogue, and I heard somebody say it really, really well. I forget who said it, but they said, that's one of the challenges. I mean, outright hateful, blatant stuff. Yes, absolutely. We need to, box that stuff up, ship it out.
Especially if there's calls for violence or anything.
But
like that.
but the square, the open square of ideas.
Yeah.
If you shouldn't, because they do. You shouldn't block or deplatform bad ideas.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Because as soon as you censor somebody,
then how do you know?
You've
how
lost
do you
the
know
argument.
where they are? Well, but and that's the thing is we need to know. We need to know what the bad ideas are, and we need to know who's articulating the bad ideas.
I'll tell you what, nobody's banning flat earthers, and that's a really bad idea. But everybody knows it,
right?
And so except for this handful of people, and God bless you.
You mean it's a bad idea to not believe it? That's what you're saying, right?
Wait, isn't that what we're talking about?
Right, we're talking because the ice walls. Actually,
the firmament.
I have a friend. Oh man,
I had a friend who for 5 minutes.
The moon's gravitational pull, and I was like, oh buddy. And then my daughter came home and went.
Yeah.
My daughter came home and she said, Dad, do you think it's weird that we didn't go to the moon? And I was like, I'm sorry. And all of her friends who are like 9, 10, and 11 years old have a club now.
Oh, wow.
Which is how disinformation begins right here. I would say I would equate what is going on in our discourse as a society right now to my daughter's little 9, 10, and 11-year-old club of people that sit on the trampoline and force each other to believe that we didn't go to the moon because one of their dads believes that we didn't go to the moon, and so he is literally, and I'm just like, well, honey, you're gonna have to do some research for yourself because Dad doesn't want to talk about that because
that's so funny.
So anyway,
I haven't had that with my kids yet.
I got sucked in once to that.
I got sucked in once for 5 minutes. Like this person came in with so much passion and I was just kind of like. It was such an onslaught that it kind of left me bewildered for a second. I was like, and I had that second of doubt. I was like, could it?
Could it?
And then
be?
I just went and looked up Google Earth and found the horizon. And I felt much better about life.
No, it's true. I was like, honey. Well, what didn't help though is there's actually a clip of Buzz Aldrin getting interviewed by an 8-year-old girl, and the 8-year-old girl says something to the effect of, "Why haven't we gone to the moon again?" And Aldrin, this is not unclipped or or a deep fake. I don't know how this works, but Aldrin's like, well, it's because we, because we've never been there. And I was like, what?
Oh, there's a crazier video.
Yeah,
where
somebody hand that man another beer.
Well, I've seen even worse. There's a crazier video where this grown-ups with cameras sit down with multiple astronauts, not just Buzz. And they have these one-on-one situations where they set them up basically, and they take them on this thing, and they throw some stuff at them, and every single astronaut either admits something crazy where you're like, wait, what did you just say? Or they just get so pissed at the interviewers when they go down that route, they throw them out, which makes them look guilty by implication. It was like 7 astronauts.
That's the state of our media right there. So I would
CNN,
this wasn't
Fox CNN.
News
this was some
to the moon. That's what it is. It's
so I'm not going there, but my point is
we'll do that another. We should do that though. We should have someone on, a real conspiracy theorist. That would be a blast.
Oh, heck yeah.
I would love to just listen to that basket of crazy for an hour.
Yeah. But the point is that stuff's still allowed. Nobody's afraid of that because they know the overwhelming narrative of evidence
Right.
and everything is so substantial, and we're so confident in that let them have whatever they're saying.
Right.
But
well, it doesn't threaten their
No.
their paradigm though, and that's the thing is there's such a commitment
Yeah.
to I'm not on both sides. There's such
But
a
we never
commitment
ban-
to our politic now.
Yeah,
Like conservatives are not conservatives of a description, but it's almost becoming an identity. And it's the same thing with progressives. I would say progressives even, I try to be even keel, but I would even say with progressives it's more so because it's literally it is the breeding ground for some pretty toxic identity politics. Not across the board. I'm not saying all progressives. I'm not paying, but there's some pretty toxic identity politics that are going in there. I had a friend, and again, like I said, we try to keep it pretty neutral. But a friend was talking about just how unfair it is that we're even having an issue right now with transgender females participating in girls' sports. And I think it's one of those things where a lot of people, especially a lot of conservatives right now, just kind of sit back and just like, I don't even know how to talk about it. I don't even know what to say. I'm just going to get called hateful. And then this kind of stuff starts happening, and you all of a sudden start seeing people just go, no, there's no way around this. Mm-hmm. You have girls that have been training their entire life to play sports. Yeah. They've strived, they have practiced, they have fought to become, in the top tier of their sport, and you have somebody who's transitioned and would probably be ranked like number 2 in the number 200 in the NCAA, and now all of a sudden they're number 1. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way. And and they said, I just think it's unfair, and I was like, well, I think you should ask the lady who had her orbital bone broken by Fallon Fox, in the UFC, if she feels like it's unfair. It's just like you're asking we have to be able to say that we are not making a judgment regarding the transgender debate when we are talking about equality and fairness in sports. Those are not the same thing, but that's your tactic. That's your identity politic tactics, that it has to be the same thing. And there is no room to compartmentalize and go, wait, no. I mean, no, these are not the same thing. And that's what I thought. It's this kind of ignorant, all or nothing attitude.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is dangerous, because then what happens when you take that all or nothing attitude into things that are even more volatile in our culture than sports, and you apply it, because then you're beginning to start. You're starting to mess with the fabric of a moral compass. And
plus sports is like the great equalizer. Like, I can get together with my biggest progressive buddy, who is also a Niners fan. Not you.
The Niners are who are the Niners again?
The team that just got the 3rd pick in the draft, and I'm excited about it.
It's because they're gonna need it.
Hey, at least our quarterback didn't try to bail on us. Okay.
Do you want to put a wager on it right now? You guys don't even go to the playoffs this year.
A wager?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to the playoffs this year.
I'm
when Jimmy's healthy, we're like 24-7.
I think you're gonna just miss it.
No, we're going. I'll wager you. I'll put $50 on that.
Okay, $50.
I'm not afraid.
I won't even ask you to win a playoff game. I'm just saying you don't even make.
I'll even put an extra 20 on top that says we're ahead of you in the division. There we go.
Oh no, I'm not. No, listen. That's what I'm saying. I'm being intellectually honest this year. I think the Seahawks are going to be questionable at best.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to go the other way. I thought
No. I think no.
Yeah. All right.
Russell's head's in the wrong place.
That our second podcast should be a sports podcast. We just talk football all day.
Anyway,
at least our 2 teams. Anyways, what we were
all
saying.
The politic people are they're like, they're going to come back, right? They're going to when's Maxine Waters
see, that's
come
the
up?
thing. Most people love sports, even if it's just a little bit. But that transgender issue in women's sports is so interesting because, first of all, ironically, it's the side that's been touting the feminist banner that is now allowing women's sports to be absolutely destroyed. Right. So that's one part of it. The other part is that we all kind of agree on sports. Like, we all can find, at least not agreeing on teams, but that we either love sports or we're okay with sports. But it's very rare you find the person who hates sports, and nobody likes that guy anyways. But no, on either side. But if a sport is being ruined, that
Right.
starts, and we're not talking just a sport. We're talking literally half of all sports is being ruined.
Right.
That literally starts bringing a lot of people waking up, saying like, "What's going on here?" Because liberal Joe down the street, he's got a daughter playing basketball, and if transgender Sally comes and joins the team and is 6'9", weighs 250.
Starts dunking on 14-year-olds.
Dunking on these, like,
Right.
he's all of a sudden he's going to be like,
Right.
oh man, it's what we talked about a couple weeks ago, how so many of these people have these beliefs as long as they're comfortable until they grow uncomfortable. But when you start affecting people's daughters and sisters and stuff, that makes it personal, and that becomes an issue.
Well, and that's the thing is I think when you take that kind of, when you're celebrating someone's liberty and freedom, which is great.
Yeah.
Which is it is what it is. Okay. If it's like, because I have friends who are trans friends. I really do. I said I really do, like I'm trying to convince myself I do. I actually do.
Yeah.
And I have friends who are members of the LGBT community. I love them.
Yeah.
My challenge with the discourse is that I don't get to do anything I want.
Yes.
And I
Totally.
don't get to demand of someone that they I don't get to demand that someone address me a certain way.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
I don't get to demand that someone call me sir.
Yeah.
I don't get to demand, especially people I don't have a relationship with. I don't, as a cultural norm, I don't get to demand anything. I get to go into the grocery store. I get to go to the restaurant. I get to act civil and hope that people act civil to me. But I get to demand nothing. And someone can act like a jerk to me if they want, because they have the freedom to be a jerk, right? I don't get to demand that you not be a jerk. And if you are going to choose to be a jerk, I have the right to take my business elsewhere, which is exactly how the Karen got invented, right? The Karen got invented by somebody mistreating them or saying something that they didn't like. And how this, I can't believe this person painted my nail this way. I mean, just our Facebook page is unbelievable for our community. But I don't get to demand that.
Yeah.
In identity politics, it changes and says, I want to assert that I am treated a certain way, and that I demand of you that you treat me said way.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not really. You have crossed over into. Now, I'm not saying that civility should not be our baseline. It is, and if someone was trans and their pronouns were something opposite or different than what I would be and can be respectful because of the baseline of civility.
Yeah.
But I will not endorse your right to, even though I may choose to be civil, I won't endorse you believing you have a right to demand it.
Sure.
I will endorse your freedom to tell that person to kick rocks and move on.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing. It's not, if somebody calls me, a name, that's not hate speech. That's sticks and stones. And so I think the challenge that we're facing as a culture is we are really trying to, personalize the moral code.
Sure.
Personalize the baseline of society and say that somehow the kind of the baseline of society of morality, and I'm not talking sexual preference when I'm talking morality. I'm talking morality, right? Because people get it twisted. I'm just talking what it is to be civil to each other.
Yeah.
That somehow that has to become personalized to me, and it has to fit me rather than us as a cooperative community. We fit it, right? We work together and fit it, and it's not progressive to reinvent it and say now, because now you start to get into really weird, deep areas of the pool where it's like, well, now biology, math, science must conform to how I feel.
Yeah, it's insane.
Rather than you can't do that, you know. I mean, listen, if you're going 60 miles an hour towards a wall, that wall does not care how you feel. It's not going to conform to your feelings, okay?
Yeah.
It's a concrete wall, and you're going to be a stain.
Yeah.
Okay? That's all there is to it. And just because math and science are intangible does not mean that it won't be devastating if you decide that you're going to go all Don Quixote and take it on.
Sure.
And think that there's not going to be any debris.
Yeah.
You know, because it doesn't work that way.
Well, there became a point in time, it's always existed with some, but where it's become so prevalent where the idea of achieving equality became, we must allow them to be entitled, you know?
Right.
And that's exactly what it is. It's entitlement. It's that, well, I'm this, so I should get to do this, you know? Whereas the idea of civil rights was, we are going to pass laws that prohibit you from discriminating against. So you can't not do something or do something because you hate this person.
Right.
Like, that was prohibited. But once you get into the point where you're automatically lifting others up based on whatever it is, race, gender, anything, where you're automatically just pulling them up because of that, and there's been nothing earned there, there's nothing gained, and all of a sudden it's just like, you've taught this whole generation of people that if I do this, I do better. There's right now there's a
right, because it's now what you're saying. I mean, that's the difference between equality of opportunity and equality of outcome.
Exactly. Well, that's what, and it's not even equality of outcome. That's what gets so twisted. It's like no matter what you do, you can't give everybody a first place trophy.
Right.
There's just no way around that. Can you I guess it, like somebody would probably argue and say, well, you could make sure everybody gets a first place trophy over the course of the season. Okay. But then nobody wants to do it. You know, you've taken all fun out of it. And I remember when I was studying sports.
Not for everybody. There are people who are like, participation trophies are fine.
Well, because they suck.
That's called rec soccer. You know, rec soccer is the participation trophy. And my daughter hates rec soccer. She plays it, but then she started playing select, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm playing with girls that don't want to just give each other nicknames." You know, like they actually want to practice. Which is fine. It's not. There's nothing wrong with the girls who want to give each other nicknames through the entire practice. And she's like, I want to practice with people to practice. Like my daughter, she literally she got beat. I want you to get back to your point, but it was just super funny. I mean, this just tells you. So her first time practicing at select, so she's practicing with the select team, and they were doing warm-ups. And when she would do warm-ups with rec, she would literally lap kids, like my wife. And, you know, actually at one point, the coach, I was standing out there in practice, and the coach, you know, told her, you know, through her mask, Reagan. No, she's like, because Reagan's running. I think she's running with a mask on. The coach told her, Reagan, you don't have to go full gear here, you know, because she's lapping the other little girls. And Reagan's like, no, I'm fine. Her first time playing select, they did their laps. And Reagan literally was thrilled because she got smoked.
That's awesome.
Like they whipped her. I mean, these girls were crushing her. And Reagan literally looked at me and was like, Dad, I got beat. And I'm like, yes, that's the Walker's marriage. But anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you. But that's what I'm saying. Equality of outcome is like it's equality of opportunity. I'll fight for you. I'll stand with you. Yes. And it's a hard road to hoe. Yeah. But we can get there, you know, as a community that's on the same page. It may not happen overnight, but we can get there, because it is right. It is right to give schools that are suffering. You know, it's not. I mean, to base the effectiveness of your school on the tax base of that area, I think it's garbage. You know. You know, I happen to live in an area. It's got a really strong tax base. We've got great schools, great computers, great teachers. I think true leadership and solid leadership in this region would be like, okay,
Yeah.
let's figure out how to do this. Let's maybe not be government waste people and spend way too much money for those laptops. Let's get some real negotiating going, and also get some of these funds and laptops, of all these multi-billion-dollar corporations into the hands of some of the schools that don't have that heavy tax base.
Yeah.
So that they've got the proper equipment as well. That's a good thing.
Well, the whole public school thing is just such a mess.
I know. Sorry.
There's a reason. Yeah, I won't even send my kids, but and we have good schools here, but they're still just not good, if you know what I mean. But that's a simple one too, because those are state run. It should just be an automatic. Every school gets the same based on the students, Yeah. But anyway, like that's a gimme. That's a gimme, and it's not even done right. But when we talk about these the identity politics, there's an epidemic right now where teenage girls are identifying as transgender at like rates never seen before. I mean, it doesn't even make sense.
It's getting popular.
But it's not just popular. It's like once they do that, because of this entitlement thing we've bred, this attention thing we've bred.
Right.
It's like if you're unpopular girl having trouble meeting friends and something, and all of a sudden you're just like, well, I could just become transgender, and boom, you are celebrated.
Find a community,
you got all that stuff.
True.
Now, many of these girls regret it down the line, because the actual percentage of people who truly stay identifying transgender for their entire lifetime is a very small percent. They exist, but it's a very low percent. But if it's a trend where it's and I think it actually might be more of this right now, but say 3% of teenage girls right now are getting there. Like that's a huge number for transgender. And most of them regret it later, but they have gender altering surgeries and hormones they take for years. And it literally puts them on a path that they cannot recover from. You can't go back.
We will see the tattoo of this decade, years from now, that's a tattoo that you can't remove. And honestly, I don't know about you. I don't feel like I can speak. Like I said, I have friends who are trans. And one of my friends in particular he's brilliant. He's an intellectual. Yeah. He's really is. And he actually goes kind of in and out,
Okay.
He's kind of non-binary, and but I have another friend who's kind of investigating it right now, kind of investigating that side of his life. Okay. And it's really interesting because we all experience, I'm not going to say every situation is because of some deep-rooted pain or a lack of acceptance or something like that. It does seem like to be that there are themes and trends, but I'm not intelligent enough on the journey, to speak comfortably, because those are people I love, and it's just sure. I don't know how to navigate this, but I think what I would say, in full, throated agreement with what you're saying, is how we are being a little bit as a society and as leadership in a society and as parental figures in a society being unwilling to say the hard things as far as, okay, I may not understand this journey. When you are considering giving a 6-year-old puberty blockers, you and you say it's hateful not to, somewhere you've lost your way. In my opinion, not the 6-year-old. Okay.
No,
the 6-year-old is to be trained, as being loved, being nurtured, walk through difficulties and challenges and stresses, because as parents and adults, we're going through a pandemic, we're going through life, and some adults are just immature, right? And don't know how to parent, or are fully mature and are experiencing this because society is flooding in on their children, and they don't know how to respond to the flood that's attacking their children. So it's no fault of their own. But sorry, lost my headphone here. But to say that, that this is a good idea and it's a healthy idea to give a child puberty blockers, you need to go get some help from someone else. Because you're not making healthy decisions right now.
There's a bill on the table right now that'll make that child abuse in Texas if it's done to anybody under 18.
Texas seems to do well.
We're on the ball right now. I gotta say, I'm proud of our state. But I don't want to.
How do we get from media to here?
Well, because it all runs together. Because what the media has perpetuated is this. It's perpetuated this entitlement mindset, and what I was trying to say is that the entitlement mindset of identity politics that we've come to is very dangerous, even to those people. They might not see it at first because it seems like more people are on your side, which always feels great at first.
Right.
But the truth is, if you're getting all these people becoming transgender because it's trendy, that actually is going to really hurt your cause later on when there's a backlash. All these people have regretted it.
Well, I think you nailed it, though. I think it's not just. I think it's both. I think there are those that are genuinely feeling an internal struggle inside, and having an emotional, like, who am I?
Yeah.
Which let's just say, I think everyone asks that question. Why am I here is the number one question. That's So identity crises are not.
Yeah.
No one has the corner market on identity crises, but you said it really well. It's, I think, community. There is a part of, and I have a friend who actually has come out of the LGBTQ community, and one of the things he said was, once you've experienced that level of community, it's intensely strong, and it's intensely committed community, and for him it was actually really hard to get out of, but he felt like it was. For him, it wasn't healthy anymore. That the level of community wasn't actually healthy anymore. It was getting more. It was more rooted and based on, this is what we hate. These are our pains. These are opposed to us. And he's like, I just can't. This is not my life anymore.
Yeah. Well, this even extends to, like, say, the BLM movement, not the organization, which we both agree is corrupt and everything, but the movement. I
feel like we have to say that every time we're offering a disclaimer. Every time.
You have to separate them.
We love black people. We can't stand the organization.
Exactly. Anybody I'll say anybody who doesn't believe that Black Lives Matter, it's like, you don't need to listen to us.
Right.
Like, you're a moron. But the organization is terrible. But as far as this movement that's led by the organization that's causing a lot of damage right now, what do we talked about? It's like, it's mostly white liberals leading it, and mostly white liberals with nothing else to do, who have trust funds or getting paid in some way. But it's so interesting because as BLM, the organization that's leading this movement, is getting more and more corrupt, it's going to hurt the people like that it was meant to help in the first place.
Right.
And what is it, though? It's because it's a trend led by entitlement. What are they? It's all about gimme, gimme, gimme.
Yeah,
we want this. Instead, like,
at all costs too.
Yeah,
right.
And
most at the cost of the city,
Yeah, and much of the most respected, Black Americans who have actually gone through this, they'll straight up say, like, I did it through hard work. I did it through getting past all this stuff.
Well, and it's interesting. It's interesting because, I was going to say, it's interesting because it's kind of the at all cost mentality. Is creating a little bit of a cavalierness that is going to backfire and has already begun to backfire. There was the video this week of the lady who got pulled over, and she was basically just lambasting a Hispanic officer, calling him a murderer and telling him he's never going to be white, that kind of stuff. But also that hubris very well may be used as a major component in the Derek Chauvin trial when you have a jury member who basically stated, we've got to get in on these juries to change things, but under oath is saying, I've never been to a Black Lives Matter rally. Wasn't too familiar with the case. Wasn't too familiar with the video of George Floyd. And now it's come to the surface.
Yeah.
This guy has absolutely been to Black Lives Matter rallies.
Sure.
Absolutely was in a wearing a George Floyd shirt. I mean, basically, he's lied under oath. I mean, like you're like do you not think the cameras are on, sir? So I'm just saying that kind of that hubris or that commitment is so blinding that you very well may have created a mistrial argument in the very thing that you were saying was important that you get in on these juries, so that so it's like you're not thinking, you know, and
or I mean, even worse,
crazy.
Even worse, it could be very true that what they want is just the chaos to continue, like not the real people who actually want to make a difference, but the people.
I wouldn't say in this case that was it. I literally think this guy just absolutely was just not thinking.
Just an idiot, just arrogant. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I hear you.
You don't lie under oath because you don't throw yourself on that altar. I'm going to lie under oath so we can keep the jams going. No. It's true. No.
But think of all the riots and stuff that continued even after Chauvin was convicted.
Right.
Riots that continued after Biden got elected that were supposed to stop.
Sure.
Like some of them just want the chaos to continue.
Well, like Portland, I mean, I live here in Seattle, right? Yeah. So Portland, we just keep hearing there's riots going on in Portland.
Sure.
but if you asked any, it was like, why? Like, what is going on?
There's nothing to
why are they rioting down there? I mean, literally no one knows. I think it's like it's a building burning club. It's like, what do we like to do? We want to start fires. I mean, that's just it's
seriously.
No one could articulate exactly what's going on in Portland and why. So for justice, like, for who? You know, because I mean, what justice are you accomplishing other than getting cops to come out and tear gas you every night? Like what? How are you advancing? Not only are you not advancing the cause, your narrative has disappeared.
Yeah.
You know, your narrative has the attention span of, oh, look, Voodoo Donuts. I'm going to go over there instead. I mean, it's just, I mean, and to come to the revelation that it's lost on them.
Mm-hmm. I know.
It's
craziness.
Someone needs to do that. I mean, someone needs to just go down there and say, hey guys, what are you doing? And if we would stop, if our government would stop, enabling paid vacations.
Oh yeah. Someone would have to go back to work.
Right. We had a restaurant in our community here this week that a Mexican restaurant, one of the best ones in town, was closed on Cinco de Mayo.
Wow.
Because they don't have enough employees.
That's even a factor here in Texas.
It's because the employees are getting paid to stay home.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like it's like, how in the world did the government manage to literally kill your business because of a lockdown, and now they'll kill your business because of you're going to reopen and you can't get enough people to come to work? How is it? I think Montana today actually cut it off.
Really?
They cut off the government unemployment funds. They basically said we're not doing this anymore.
Wow.
I think you're going to start to see more states.
Oh, it's going to.
You'll definitely see red states do it because
I think Texas.
I have some friends that literally are on their way to Texas right now on a vacation. A couple of millennial buddies of mine, and they're like, "Yeah, we're heading to Texas." I'm not gonna say who but they're like, "Yeah, we're on our way to Texas to hang out." And I was like, "Really? That's cool. That's awesome." Yeah. And I was like, "Neither one of you guys have jobs." And I was talking to their mom. Their mom was like, "Yeah, they're collecting that unemployment." And I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, it's crazy.
All they got to do is check in every week and collect that check, and they're on permanent vacation. And they're going to Texas. I'm like,
is that how it is up there right now? You guys don't have a limit?
You don't even have to look for a job right here in Washington.
Wow.
All you have to do is call in and check in every week and make sure you still have a pulse so that they can send one to you. And early on, you didn't even have to have a pulse. You could be dead, and they would still find ways to. Because Jay Inslee lost something like $150 million to a Sudanese scam.
Wow.
Or it was a Sudan.
No
one of this.
way.
Yeah, totally got scammed for $150 million fake unemployment claims.
Oh my
so at one point, Which is ironic because it was like $150 million of people got fake money, and I still have friends that can't get through the system to get real money, for their real unemployment.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Oh my
it's up here, it's unemployment it's referred to as fun enjoyment.
Wow.
Not unemployment.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, so we have
That's
restaurants
crazy.
closing because
Yeah.
you can't. So I had a solution. I just said, you know what? All these guys that are looking for jobs right now, or all these people are looking for employees, I said, hire 16 and 17-year-olds
Yeah.
and just pay them like crazy.
Yeah.
Pay them super good.
Yeah.
And just train them. And
I saw you post
and keep
that.
them.
I thought that was smart. Yeah. It's
and then
very
all
smart.
the 18, 19-year-olds, when their fun enjoyment gets cut off, they'll be like,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
you're working
Well,
at
there's
McDonald's
this-
now because all the startup jobs are open because these guys
Yeah.
got really good training jobs now.
Totally.
That'll
It's even
show
a
'em.
problem here in Texas where we're more open. And I was on unemployment a little bit here in Texas because I got laid off in January.
Yeah.
And in Texas, you have to do 3 like work search activities every week, and you have to record them. And it's like work to stay unemployed, which is as it should be. I always said that like if you really want to disincentivize unemployment, the state makes you work for them while you're on it. It's like
Right.
whether it's
Yeah.
data entry or go pick up stuff on the highway.
Yeah.
People get off unemployment real quick.
Yeah, here you only have to do 3 word searches.
That's
You
insane.
just have to do a word search. Just do 3 word search.
But
No,
but
it
it's
is.
it's even a problem here. People are we Summer and I went to a really nice restaurant the other day, and it was nice food. It wasn't like fancy, but the guy said that he can barely employ or barely stay open because he doesn't have enough people, and he said he spends $4,000 a month just trying to get people in.
Yeah, he's not the only. I mean, it's really interesting, because it's gonna. I mean, employers are probably gonna have to. You're gonna see base salaries start to go up.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe that'll increase the value of a job. So. Hey, let's as we kind of round the corner tonight, I do have a topic that I do think is rather interesting.
Let's do it.
I was reading an article a couple weeks ago about, it was actually a statement that Phil Gwaits, the founder of Microsoft, have you heard of that? Phil Gwaits?
I don't know. What
Phil
that is.
Gwaits of Microsoft. He's currently getting divorced. That guy.
Oh,
Phil Gwaits.
Okay, I get
Phil
it.
Gwaits.
Yeah. I think I think we can say his name.
No, I don't
think
say anybody's name anymore. YouTube algorithms.
Fair enough. Yes.
Phil Gwaits of Microsoft.
Phil
Phil Gwaits. Phil and Schmiminda. He was on particular show talking about, because they were talking about how vaccines are it was becoming more complicated, the production of vaccines, and obviously India is experiencing, depending on who you're talking to, India is experiencing a pretty intense situation right now, which was, at the beginning they were actually pushing vaccines, out the door in droves, and now they've actually cut off all the exports to vaccines because of what they're currently experiencing in India. And the data on what's actually happening in India is actually really interesting. If you deep dive into that, maybe we can do that another time. But, the fact is there's people's lives that are being deeply, deeply affected in India. And so they have kept the vaccines to distribute amongst their community, which obviously then stopped the distribution of vaccines to other more or less industrialized countries who really, really needed them. And then yet we have in America, we have the luxury to be vaccine hesitant and, to have our leaders going, you better get out there and take that thing or I'm going to send it to somebody else. And again, like I said at the beginning, yes, go for it. You should absolutely do that. We're all for that. We're being threatened not to go to a baseball game and other people are dying in other countries. It's like, geez Louise, you guys, get it together. But somebody challenged Phil Gwaits on this and said, hey, doesn't it seem like it might be appropriate to release the patents to some of these vaccines so that other laboratories that are absolutely up to speed and ready to go and could start producing, vaccines, tomorrow, or start the process to where they could actually, one lab was like they could get up to 1 million in a short amount of time. Wouldn't it be a good idea to do that? And Bill Gates actually said, Phil Gates actually said,
it's too late now.
It's too late now.
He let the
Actually
cat out
said,
of the
no,
bag.
he says, it's not like you can just hand the recipe over to somebody and there's some lab waiting somewhere to do that. That's not a thing. And it was actually, no, it was Crystal Ball. It was Crystal Ball. She was talking about it on The Hill. And, and she's like, it was really funny to watch her balance this out because she's like, I love him. He's a good guy. He's done a lot for people, but he's a total liar. And because literally she like named off on different countries that literally had empty labs or high-tech labs right now that could start it tomorrow. One in Canada, two in Bulgaria. I mean, it was just crazy. They were just saying, there are labs. It wasn't Bulgaria, somewhere else. But anyway, there are literally labs, multiple labs that could be up and running, and you have Phil just saying, no, we can't do this. This is not a thing. And some of the heads of these different labs were like, baloney, we're right here. He's lying. We could literally do this. So it kind of showed you the greedy money behind all of this, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
He's
but
getting
what's interesting that's happening now, and it's sad that it takes catastrophe to get people to act like a human.
Yeah, totally.
But now there is a lot of pressure now that we're seeing obviously the absolute, it's not even a reduction. It's just the cutting off of vaccines that are coming out of India. Yeah. That's just not happening. So now you have, and so now industrialized nations are like, well, it's in our best interest for some of these nations to hurry up and get vaccinated because, it could come back here again. So, if it affects them, then all of a sudden it's like, well, hey, maybe we could release the patents a little bit so that we can get production up. And I'm like, God, you monsters. So it literally is, it's taking a catastrophe in India and the potential catastrophe of slowing the rate of vaccinations, which they believe is helpful. In other less industrialized nations, so that it can stop the influx of what might happen. That they're saying, well, we should release these patents to some of these laboratories that apparently don't exist. I'm like,
it shows you what the real that's what the real thing going on though is. Think about this. Think about we are being
fact check
pushed.
me YouTube and tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We are being pushed a cocktail to put into our bodies that is not FDA approved. It's only emergency sanctioned right now.
Right. Has emergency release, correct.
It takes years to approve all this stuff.
Right.
And yet we're being told that we're crazy if we don't take it.
Right.
I mean, so I'm crazy if I'm not a test subject, if I'm not signing up for your trial.
Yeah.
That's
and
really what's going
unpatriotic
on
and
here.
uncaring, and you're a monster.
Yeah.
If
I can't.
You have a jar of 1,000 M&Ms, and there's two ones that are literally, poisonous. And it's like, I'm just not gonna have that M&M.
And if something happened to me, they're completely not liable. They're protected by the government.
And you have a 99.8%, survival rate if you do get a virus that is supposed to protect you from. So
I already got it. So my survival rate's much higher. If it comes back.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, how in the world, but if you do it, we're going to let you go to a Mariners game.
Or you get
sit in the 100
in
level.
Yeah.
And you'll be accepted amongst the people.
It's insane. But like that, but it really shows you it's all like.
But don't forget to wear the mask, even though you've been double poked.
Yeah, if this had if it had a 50% death rate, I could totally understand.
100%.
I'd be in line to take the thing.
Right.
But
and would justify the words emergency use.
Yeah, it's just insane to me. And it's like, look, if you feel safe taking the vaccine, take it. That's fine. I've 100%. Already had COVID. I survived it. I trust my immune system to do what's necessary the rest of my life now.
100%.
But that first of all, that is sick. I thought you were going to talk about something else, which is in this divorce. There's some theories being floated around that are very interesting.
Oh yes, no, yeah, I saw that stock sell-offs and things. No, that gets deep into Arizona recounts, which we don't even need to talk about that yet because I think that was.
I can't wait to talk about that though.
I probably just triggered the algorithm right there. I meant that iced tea.
When there's more news on that,
there's more
we're
news
going to have
on
to
that.
talk about that. We'll come
God,
up with
we
a
will
code word.
literally be thrown into the category of those guys as soon as we do that one.
No, because
we're going to have to do one on universalism afterwards.
I can't wait. Well, that's one we got to put in the bag.
Platonistic antinomianism. Antinomianism.
At least we don't have to come up with code words when we offend people in our religion.
Yeah, no, they actually put that in their Twitter search.
Yeah,
who said universalist? Because I'm going to hammer him. Joel Osteen.
Oh man,
that'll be.
Yeah,
I do.
I think he's a great guy.
I've always contended. Hey, honestly, the day you build a church that big and you're happy like that on a regular basis, you can gripe. Till then,
know what? For the 2 minutes before we go here,
right.
We'll turn positive in a second. But the one thing I want to say about the OC thing, everybody who always thinks these people are corrupt, which I get it. There was a wave of that happened in the 80s, and it still happens every once in a while, but nowhere near as widespread as it used to be. But these people act like it's so easy. like if I just decided to be a corrupt pastor, all of a sudden I'd have 50,000 people, stadium, and $1 million book deals.
You're successful because you're corrupt. I don't
exactly.
think that's how it works.
That is always the funniest thing to me. It's like,
seriously,
it's like, I want to celebrate a guy who does more harm than good. And it's like, oh yeah, well, he's so corrupt. He's just telling people what they want to hear. I'm like, yeah, it's not that easy, because I know people who do that who are poor.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Seriously.
Would you say I'm plethora of corrupt? No, I mean, no, it's true. And it's funny because it's one of those things that in the, the Christian community, nobody really has a bead on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We just keep making stuff up. Of why we think something is. It's because of this. If you're a progressive, it was because of this. He wasn't, If you're a hardline conservative, it's because of this, and you take the as of late we've kind of had some pretty intense stuff with Ravi. That was intense. Lance, that was really intense. Some intense stuff. But it's funny how we armchair quarterback people's lives so quickly. And it's not taking away from the devastating effects of their decisions. I'm not saying that at all.
Of course not. Obviously
I'm just saying that we are just we as a Christian community do a crappy job of trying to diagnose why things it's almost Christian clickbait. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, here, I'm going to tell you, how, this is what it was. And it's like, no, these are broken people.
Yeah.
Living out a broken experience, acting out in a broken way. Yeah. And, you may hate this, but God loves them more than you hate them right now.
Yeah.
And God is for them more than you are, as much more than you can kind of tussle up your 20-minute YouTube video to try and prevent the next guy from doing it or something. I'm not sure exactly what it is you think you're trying to accomplish in your third grade theological dissertation, but it's just because what we end up doing is we end up showing the world just how dysfunctional we are in handling dysfunction as a community.
Oh, absolutely.
And
why would anybody ever feel safe coming to us?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I want to bring all my broken crap to that place. Yeah, because really, I'm going to be just handed a book or given an Uber to the self-help aisle of your local Christian bookstore when those reopen. Yeehaw! No, it's really fun. I'm not down on it. I'm down. But I just think how we do that.
It's how we do it. That's the problem.
That got dark quick, didn't it? Jeez
Louise.
Yeah,
and I didn't even mean it to go dark. I was just laughing about the whole, like, if you're corrupt, all of a sudden everything's easy, which it's always cracked me up.
We are kind of proving my theory that it takes no gift to find dirt in a gold mine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. We didn't get positive enough this episode.
We didn't get positive enough this time, but it's true. These are real things that are facing our culture, and they're things that we're facing every day. And actually, one of the things that will make us successful and different is if one, we can stay positive in the midst of this.
Yes.
If we can, find the bright side, but also, be positive when we are still having the boldness to say, hey, you know what, this isn't right.
Yeah. Totally.
And not saying you as a person are not right, but the belief system or the thought process that you're trying to integrate into me.
Yeah.
Not into society. If you want to fly your flag in our culture, that's fine. And if you can find a way to integrate, that's great. And we can find a way to kind of walk together in that. That's great. But when you come through my front door with it, that's when, and by come through my front door, meaning my little one and her school, and you want to go through my door.
That's a problem.
I start to draw the line in my community, in how those that I'm doing community with and doing life with, how they run their businesses. Yeah. You're coming through my front door, and so that or people that maybe I align myself with, and you don't necessarily find them even tolerable.
Yeah.
And yet you believe that their voice shouldn't exist. Because you don't agree with what they're saying on both sides, then you're coming through my front door, and that's not existing together. And so we have to find a way to stay positive in the midst of that, and still kind of keep the conversation going. In the midst of that. So for those of you who have a hard time with things right now, we rubbed all your sores the right way tonight, and if welcome.
You're feeling depressed after we just talked about hard, dark things this whole time, I do want to say real quick, just to end on the positive note, is that the good news is that when all this stuff comes to light, it forces people to make choices. And when people make choices, my personal belief is that in America, where freedom is our go-to DNA, we're going to make more right choices as a people long-term.
That's a true story.
And I believe that all this is a really good thing. It's waking us out of a slumber of, I don't even know how long, let's say 50 years of prosperity, where things were relatively easy. The wars we fought, where we didn't know as many people going off to war and dying. They were smaller. It just seemed like times were good for a long time here in America, and we got comfortable. And I think this is waking us back up to my generation and saying, like, you know what, now we're kind of having our crisis moment. We're going to come out of this better. We're going to teach our kids better as a result of it, and things are going to get better. But my belief is, and anybody who's ever studied history can't argue this, is that for the past 2,000 years, everything continues to get better despite speed bumps.
Have you read the book? Have you seen the book 40 Year Turning?
40 Year Turning?
40 Year Turning. It's a really interesting book. You should take a peek at it.
All right, I'll check that out.
It's a book. Basically, it talks about the cycle of 80 years.
Okay. I've heard about the cycle of 80 years.
And the cycle of 80 years, and how those 20 years break up in, and why they titled 40 Year Turning, I know. But I saw kind of somebody do an overview of it. But
maybe because there's like a crest every 40 years.
It talks about and the
full circle happens.
The exciting, the fiery, then the revolt, and then the crisis. And it's funny how those things happen. From a war to thriving to crisis. So it
and
kind
just
of
look
actually
where we've progressed. I mean,
Well, it says right
years
now
ago,
that we are technically so we're in the 20-year crisis block. Now, this is according to the book, and there's obviously variables, but the 20-year crisis block that we are in, which would be before the thriving, would have started in 2008, which would make sense. And so, hopefully around 2028 things get better. But I am believing that the kingdom is I really am excited right now. Maybe that's next week we can talk about some things that actually
we should have a happy episode.
I mean, this has been great. This has been really,
we're happy.
I'm very happy.
I think people might be hearing it, not hearing the happiness, but we are very happy people.
Hopefully we've informed you tonight a little bit.
Hopefully
we've informed. Yes, exactly. Hopefully we've informed you a little bit tonight, or caused you to think, or caused you to be angry with us. Either way, we love you.
Yes.
And but no, I think there's a lot of things that would be really fun to talk about. What has actually some of the good things that have come of this if you find the silver lining. So
Totally.
So on that happy note, I'm Sean here from Seattle.
Paul. Good cliffhanger, man.
We have been way overthinking it, and we will see you next week.
See you next week, guys. Have an awesome weekend. Thanks for tuning in.